we've been talking a lot about millennials and older people, OPs, as we like to call them. And you came up with a theory about dying and dead people. What is this?
Way to put her on the spot.
Spit it out, Bobby.
I think that the young people are starting to be able to step up in the generation, and you're starting to see the millennials have to take a new role because people are actually retiring. They're not dying, but as they're retiring, it's leaving a younger generation that has been possibly a little bit less devoted to their careers, and they're finding that they need to step up in order to take over the clients.
So they're getting a good dose of adults, is that what you're saying?
They're getting a great dose of what adult is all about.
But that's that concept that everybody says that millennials want to start today at the company and tomorrow be the president.
Right.
And so Bobby's thought process is, if you look at the age of most of us, that we'll be stepping down here pretty quick, and she and Frank can just run right up to the top, right?
Well, I think interestingly, though, you're speaking about younger people moving up quickly, but the fact is that there's such a large age gap there. In our marketplace, we have very, very senior brokers, and then we have people who've been in the business for 5 years, and the people that have been doing it for 10 to 20 years, there's very, very few due to market conditions. But that'll be interesting because there's not very many people in the bullpen.
Well, you lose the history, too, which is a huge issue, especially through the recession. You had the OPs, the older people, that understood what had happened in the years previous, that the younger generation doesn't understand, and how to work through those issues. So now you're going to have kind of a delay and a new learning gap.
Frank and I were talking about this before, though, but do you find, and your words of caution before were good, I hate to paint everybody with a broad brush, but you know those damn millennials. And do they listen? Do they actually learn? My experience, personally, has been no. They want to be left alone to do their thing, whatever that thing is. But in terms of stepping back a little bit and just lending an ear to experience, that's not so much important.
You're the only millennial sitting here, so...
Well, then you can talk to my face.
By the way, you're going to age a hell of a lot before this conversation's over. Trust me.
I think the biggest problem that I've experienced with millennials truly doesn't come from the fact that they don't have the desire to learn. It's actually getting them to sit down and take the time to focus, because you'll be talking with them and the next thing you know, they're sending a text and they're talking to you one word at a time as they're doing this, and you look at them and you go, you're going to lose the client if you do that. And it's the retraining of the new people coming in. It takes longer for me to train a junior broker into the position than it used to, because much of what they used to learn in college, which was the focusing and moving through, they're actually taking many of their courses online and through internet, so they don't have that interaction skill that they used to get in a college setting.
I'm sorry, Soozi, I wasn't listening. What'd you say?
I know.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's something shiny over there.
Is that your phone?
Well, I think that is one of the beauties, though, about still having the older generation experienced brokers, because with those experienced brokers, you learn that you really have to develop relationships. You have to get out of the office, get out of the chair, and go out and build those relationships, because no amount of email marketing, social media, whatever you think, it's not going to get you a relationship with somebody. And I think the one thing that millennials are very, very far off on is the fact that they think if they have 1,000 Facebook friends, that they have 1,000 friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Or that they have 500 plus LinkedIn connections, which means that they have 500 people that they think are going to give them business. And the reality is that it means absolutely zip.
One of my favorite phrases is that there's nothing social about social media. I do love quoting myself, but it's true. You know, it's such a subtlety to develop and know how to develop a relationship that you're not going to get it off of Twitter in 140 character thought.
Right.
Well, and I think that's part of the training that comes in for the senior broker. I prefer that over OP. For the senior broker to the junior broker as they come in,
they will eventually too.
Exactly.
Enjoy
But
it while it lasts.
you know, as you bring them up and in, the real key is that the majority of the clients that we're dealing with aren't the millennials. That might be the agents that we're dealing with. But the majority of the clients are more senior too. And while they use technology as a way to transfer information, they don't typically deal and negotiate completely and communicate by email. Many times you've got to pick up the phone and you've just got to cut to the chase and negotiate a deal, which is hard to do on paper. You've got to face somebody.
I think it's getting the confidence, though, too. That's one of the things junior brokers are losing right now, is they have to gain the confidence to know they can pick up a phone and call a senior broker.
Right.
And you have to get over that, well, they're above me or they're better than me kind of thing. You have to reach out and talk to them in order to make it happen.
But they also need senior brokers, OPs, who are willing to put aside that I've been here first, I'm better. I would imagine you're that way. No, I would imagine
No, I'm a woman. I'm not like that.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't know how women work. I have a house full of them. It's more a mystery to me than ever. But very seriously, I would imagine that you are more open to training. It's that whole mentoring, reverse mentoring thing.
I'm a very mentoring personality, but realistically, I'm busy, and so many times, even with a younger person, if they're coming in and they're new in the industry and they want to take up more time than I've got to dedicate, it's almost like, can you have your broker give me a buzz and we'll get this handled?
Yeah.
And I don't mean it to be rude, it's just hard to take the time.
Yeah.
I think there's a fine line between you want somebody who's a self-starter, and that's what's very hard to find in the millennial generation. But you also do want them to not just run rampant and be aggressive. You still want to have the ability to control them and have them respect authority, or respect the fact that, for me coming into the industry, that you have somebody that you can respect, listen to, and learn from. And there's that fine line. And when you're looking for hiring, we struggle with that. It's hard.
Well, I think that the senior brokers are missing what the younger generation's bringing too. I mean, we don't all want to have an app. I prefer a handwritten card saying thank you than sending me a Facebook message saying it was nice to meet you.
But the problem is you have to print it because she doesn't read cursive. No, I'm teasing.
Yeah, right. But that aspect, but I mean, there are new apps out and new techniques that have been taught in college from the newer generation that I would say even people in their 30s don't know. That there's new items that everybody can learn from. And so I think it's trying to get to that middle ground right now that's really the difficulty.
Because Frank surprised me. We were doing an article a while ago on, actually it was reverse mentoring and what various social media platforms can be used for business and how successful they are. And Frank deferred to somebody else. And that really surprised me. He said, I'm not the guy to talk with. How well versed are you and how often do you use Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn for business?
I would say that with regards to that, we use it quite a bit, but it's only because if you click a box on a flyer that you're sending out or something of that nature through whatever organization you're using to distribute your information, that it'll actually post to those. It's not that I'm sitting there for hours a day, because if I had to do that, I don't have that kind of time. I need to be on the phone.
So you don't use it personally?
I do use it personally, yes. But I find LinkedIn to be an incredible tool to find people instead of having everybody's phone number in my telephone.
Yeah, she stalks people periodically. If you want to come work at our company, you are subjected to Bobby's stalking on all of your accounts.
If you're a millennial and I don't think you're going to do my deal, I find you on Facebook.
Soozi, what about you? Do you use a lot of the techniques that Bobbi does?
I don't use as many as she does. In the company we do, and we structure it around. I don't enjoy doing it. In fact, I'm still that person. I read a book every day, but given a choice, I'd rather have a real book because I like the feel of paper. But on the same standpoint, we find that it's something we need to use because it's a great way of disseminating information. And if you get one lease a month from sending that out and maybe liking some information, or if people recognize your name because they saw you come up connected to somebody else. That's what we use it for.
There's also a very easy trap you could fall into of mixing your message.
Right.
I use Facebook and I use LinkedIn. I use Twitter probably less than I should for various parts of my business.
Right.
But my Facebook page is my Facebook page. I have found whenever I cross-pollinate that diluting my identity. So I do Facebook for my wild, crazy parties, and my LinkedIn solely for my writing. And I try to keep the two of them separate. And to that extent, one of them always falls a little bit behind. One of them always, I find I don't populate enough.
I just think that social media is a good resource and a good tool. It's one tool in the tool chest.
Right.
And I think that some people try and rely upon it too heavily.
Right.
When the reality is that if you have a balanced attack, as with anything, you're going to be more successful than if you're relying over 100% of your leads and your relationships through social media.
And like I was saying before, I think the relationships part of it is really the finesse part of it. Anybody can post a picture to Facebook or LinkedIn, but it really takes talent, whatever that means these days. It really takes experience and a certain degree of finesse to build a trusting relationship.
Well, it's the back to basics idea. I mean, 10 years ago, well, probably 15 now, you typed leases on a typewriter, put them in the mail, and sent them to somebody, and then dialed a phone number from a handheld phone.
Right.
To where we are today, where you're doing it on your iPhone. So I think that getting back to where things were 10 years ago doesn't hurt anything either, and picking up the telephone and talking to them.
Well, and there's something else too, because from a brokerage perspective in the real estate industry, it's not all millennials coming into the industry. For a lot of folks, they're in their 30s, 40s, even some 50-year-olds coming into the industry as a second and third career. The recession's been tough on them, or maybe they've retired or found out that they really do like not living at home anymore. And so they go out and they think they want to get a real job now. And it's a second or third career to move forward. And so everybody's a little bit different. The problem is, and this is the problem with Facebook, you have a couple of drinks, the next thing you know, you're taking pictures and posting things you shouldn't be posting.
I've seen those.
Yes, of you.
I've never
And we were talking about this before the show started, and the problem is once it's out there, you can pull it back, but it's still out there. It never totally goes away, and you really need to protect your persona.
Exactly.
And, as a second or third career, we have a lot of entertainers in our town. And so things have gone viral with their entertainment, and then they come into commercial real estate, which is typically more conservative. And they expect that to all go away.
Right.
And it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't, really.
Yeah.
Do you find that older people coming into the market are harder to deal with? Like you said, the second and third careers, because they're so set in their ways.
Right.
They're so cocky about what they know that they're really hard to train.
I think it's more, it's hard to admit that you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So you do try and fake it, but I think that happens with any age. I think more of the difficulty is the technology difference. It's in my era, I come from the era, I don't want to put anything in and change it because I don't want to take a chance of breaking it until I know exactly how it works.
Right.
I mean, I still download directions on how to work my phone before I put my SIM card in, and you laugh. But these folks, she's got her son at 2 years old was playing games and apps on her iPhone. Right. So I mean, it's a complete difference, and they learn faster because they're not afraid.
Right.
But that being not afraid is also a scary thing as a broker.
Yeah. What worry? We've talked a lot today in the various interviews that we've done about where we are in the upcycle and some of the risks that are taking place. In terms of, some people have said underwriting, for example, is just tight and everything's fine, and everybody's fat and happy. And other people are saying we really need to start getting cautious. Now's the time. Gabriel Silverstein of SIOR, the vice president of the New York chapter, said the SIOR data showed in 2006 that we were heading for a fall. Nobody paid attention to it.
Right.
What worries you? What about your particular market? In your particular market?
Well, I mean, I think everybody talks about interest rates, which everybody knows is kind of the elephant in the room.
Right.
Particularly for our market, the thing I worry about is statewide regulation.
Just to be clear, you're LA.
I'm California,
right.
So statewide regulation is a big worry for us. I think that it's much more of a perception than a reality. but California is painted as very anti-business, and so that drives a lot of people out of California.
As is New York.
Exactly. At the same time, though, we have a very robust market, and we have companies like SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, Mercedes-Benz, who have leased and purchased millions and millions of square feet in Southern California and have made big bets on staying there.
Right.
So, there's two sides of that coin, but I would say overall it's just the regulation, that perceived threat of the fact that businesses are becoming so aware the world has gotten so much smaller that easily somebody can move to Texas and perform the same function.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Bobbi.
I agree in Nevada because everybody has been fleeing from California and taking over our legislation. We're having some of the same regulatory issues in Nevada where they're trying to work things
Because of the Californians.
Because of these Californians.
I bet they were all older Californians, too.
Probably.
Probably, yes.
But I think one of the issues we're seeing is it's that fear of running out of product. For so long, nothing has been coming out of the ground or being built. So you're missing transactions and deals that could happen. And at the same time, there's not a lot of great things to come back to the market or to purchase. And so some of the pricing is being falsely inflated because they so badly want to purchase property,
right,
or they have to in their exchanges. And so they're kind of overpaying to begin with. So we're going to start seeing tick-ups that might be too soon or too early for our market.
And my concern with that truly is so many of the companies that we're getting in Southern Nevada are call center related. Call center related industries typically pay very low.
Last year. This has been going on for a while.
Yeah, it has been. And they're coming to our town because of the high unemployment. They are paying $10, $12, $14 an hour. Well, those kind of rates cannot sustain increase in lease rates, increase in housing, increase in restaurant pricing, and so that may falsely keep us low. It starts creating that two economies in the same market, and that's difficult. And in our market, we're just finally recovering.
Right.
And I think one of our biggest fears in the SIOR community within our town is that we're finally recovering, and if we slip into recession again, hey, geez, it's going to be a long haul for us again,
really
because
is.
we haven't made it back yet.
Yeah, I mean, getting into the market specifics, I mean, LA is very, very different. We have no vacancy. We're at 2%. We have no additional land unless you go 75 miles east of the city center. We have different economic drivers, including the ports, and then just the base of, actually, we have the opposite problem, which is we have people earning way too much money, and really they can't find anything to buy because the people can't sell and there's nothing available. So we are very constrained in a different way there. I would say, you talk about fears, in our market, the market has changed so rapidly and the pendulum has swung very, very quickly that a lot of your unsophisticated tenants and landlords are unaware of what has happened. And it's really been interesting because I don't want to say that they're uneducated, but they are not in tune with what is happening, and people are being caught off guard. Tenants that think that, okay, well, my lease doesn't expire for 6 months, I'm fine. They're now realizing that they're now, I don't want to use the word being held hostage, but they are going to have zero negotiating leverage, and they're going to be stuck if they're not planning in advance. It's back to where it was at the peak, where if your lease is expiring in a year, you better be thinking about it and talking about it.
Well, and that's that education that we need to give them. But the problem is that even in our industry, there's not near as many commercial agents and brokers as there used to be.
Yeah.
And we really need to bring these people back into our industry, because you have offices that used to have 200 brokers that have 40. And and in many cases, you just didn't have the people that were willing to come in, because in our industry, it takes 5 years to train somebody in commercial real estate.
But there's still that direct correlation between. So it's not like somebody in the service industry where, in brokerage, you can train somebody, take that 5 years. Granted, it's a long time, and they're going to produce X dollars. There's going to be a direct return on that investment.
Right.
Which is much different than all your other professions, because there's no direct correlation. You're right.
Yeah.
What you both come? Well, the three of you come from two very interesting markets, because both of you, like as opposed to what Boston, were really hit by the recession. You guys just you came out of it, you being LA, pretty quickly.
Ours was very short-lived, I would say.
It really was. And you guys are still suffering.
We're at about 60% of value.
Yeah.
So from the height of the market at the beginning of '08, we're still about on buildings that are selling. Those buildings are selling at about 30% less than reconstruction price. So there's some real, built-in equity that would go on for anybody that purchased now. But yet on the same standpoint, the things that we talked about are the very same things that are keeping our lease rates low. However, like industrial, we're at an 8% vacancy factor in industrial. And industrial rates in the last 6 months in Las Vegas, in most areas, have gone up as much as 50%. But on average, 32%. Office, we are finally down to a vacancy rate of 21%, which we are just waving the flag over, which is still extremely painful.
It's terrible.
It's really difficult.
Yeah.
But again, with no new product coming on the market, we're seeing that industrial buildings are finally starting to build, multifamily's going crazy, retail's at less than 11% vacancy, and so office is always the first to be affected and the last to recover.
Always is.
And shy of something horrific, I think we're finally going to be back. And she made the comment to me, about 4 years ago.
Watch what you say. She
I'm a little nervous right now.
Was it only 24 months that it felt like we were just plucking money off of trees because there was just so much business? And, we're excited about the fact that a balanced market is actually coming back.
Right.
But, when you can't get enough product on the market for somebody to buy it, through history that it's going to collapse. I mean, that was no surprise.
Right.
And the steady growth coming back, I think, will sustain us. We had some huge ups and downs in Las Vegas over the last 5 years, and actually 8 years. But realistically, we've been a town that grew at 3% a year for over 25 years.
Right.
And if we go back to that, that's that sustainability, because we're a sub-market of Southern California.
I've been saying this for years. You have to bring the mob back because they know how to run a business.
Well, they all live in your hood, so
Send them back over.
I know people.
we'll have them talk to her people.
What's your outlook?
I would say, being a principal of a small regional brokerage company, I would say it's very, very good. Particularly speaking, there's so much consolidation going on with all the larger brokerage companies.
I was going to ask you about that. Is that good for you or bad for you?
We think it's great because it really cements our position in the market, and really we consider ourselves the credible alternative to the big shops. And so as more and more consolidation happens, they're bundling and still working through all of the issues while we are there, and we have always been there.
And we're about to bundle again if Cushman & Wakefield goes
to
rumor,
yeah.
DTZ, TGB, whatever it is,
yeah.
right?
XYZ.
A bunch of different letters.
A whole bunch of different letters. What's your outlook, Bobbi?
It's really positive. Things are fun again. People are enjoying it. Landlords are enjoying. Tenants are enjoying. I think that it's not everybody needs to cut each other's throat while they're trying to do a transaction. And people are actually out there working together and trying to be collaborative versus holding all their cards close to themselves.
Now, in the last upcycle, was it more cutthroat? When you were plucking money off the tree?
No, when you plucked money off a tree, if you fogged a mirror, you got a check. So it wasn't bad. But
So it's interesting you say that, because the one thought I have about this is we're talking about the market and kind of the economy aspect. And what's interesting about our business is at the last uptick, there were so many people flooding into the business. It was
Right.
oversaturated. And we haven't seen that.
I think that they're still in their real jobs trying to recover from what they purchased. When you have people that are falsifying their documents to own 12 houses and they lose everything, I think that they still have their tail between their legs. They haven't come back, but I see it. If we don't watch it, that fear of it happening again is very possible. So,
Right. I agree. On the consolidation, I think that's really exciting, but the consolidation makes it even more important to have the independent brokers and the OPs that are out there, because realistically, with the roll-up that's gone on in the real estate, it takes those people that are experienced, that were in the market before the recession hit, to actually know what was going on with the zoning when it was made, what kind of use permits were put in, but as importantly, where the bodies lie. You know, did somebody do everything with permits? And
Yeah.
the new people into the industry aren't going to know that.
Right.
So there's a lot of value that's brought on both sides of that fence. I think that you'll probably find over the next 10 years, a lot of folks in my age group are going to be retiring, and you know, these are our future OPs.
Right.
And it's just going to be a little bit closer to the younger side this
You should
time
see
around.
the look that Bobby just shot.
Did she
to
get
Frank.
excited?
It was like
It was a sinister grin.
Do we just kick her off of the stage
just
right
push
now?
her right off. But don't forget, they could push on this side too.
Exactly.
Guys, thanks so much.
Thank you.